Hey everyone, welcome to the latest edition of Otel Me. My name is Adriana Vilela. I am one of the maintainers of the OpenTelemetry end user SIG. Super excited to have folks joining us here, and please feel free in the chat to just say where you're joining from. I'm joining from Toronto, Canada. I have some very special folks here joining today. First of all, I have Victoria, who is co-hosting with me. So Victoria, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Victoria Nduka. I'm a user experience designer. I'm currently interning with the Prometheus project as an LFX intern. From my project has got me interfacing with a lot of OTel members, which is how I learned about this program. Uh, and I'm looking forward to interviewing Eromosele and learning all about his experience.
Awesome. And now it's time to introduce our guest for Otel Me, Eromosele.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much, Adriana. My name is Eromosele Akhigbe. I am a developer advocate at Step Security. I'm also an OpenTelemetry member. I was a former Outreachy intern, and that's where I got introduced to OpenTelemetry. And I'm so excited to share my experience with OTel here today. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Yeah, super excited. So, well, you mentioned Outreachy in your intro. Why don't you tell folks a little bit about the Outreachy program?
Okay, so the Outreachy program is an initiative that their aim is to help people that are underrepresented communities, marginalized, looked down on communities, get into open source. They encourage them to get into open source, to put their first leg into open source, and then they also give some kind of incentive, to assist them, right, to get their first leg into open source, and the open source community at large. So that is what Outreachy is, and it's not just for open source. It's for both open source and open science. So they have projects that covers biological things, projects that covers geo maps, different diverse projects, not just open source projects. But my love, since I'm a tech guy, I love open source, and that's where I got to know about open source and the amazing open telemetry community. Yeah.
So were you aware of like open source before you applied for Outreachy, or was Outreachy like your awareness into open source then?
Okay, so yeah, so I always knew that open source existed, right? I always knew that okay, there's something out there in the world called open source that some cool dudes that are very smart, very intelligent, are doing awesome work in, right? So, but I just never believed that someone like me could contribute to open source because I was like, bro, what do you know? You do not work in Microsoft, you don't work in Google, you don't have that knowledge, man. You don't have the experience. So just chill. When you are skilled enough, maybe you can start playing in the big leagues, right? So open source was something I remember several times I would use YouTube to how to contribute to open source. And then I'll try to watch some videos, I'll get scared, and then I'll run away, right? So, but Outreachy, provided that platform, so we had mentors that actually directed and showed us, the step-by-step process on how to make your first contribution. And then once you make your first contribution, you realize that, wait a second, man, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. It's all in your head, right? And then once you make that first contribution, I just kept making and making, and then it just became so sweet and cool. So yeah, so that's how I got to learn about. I knew about open source, but the Outreach gave me the platform to take that first step into open source.
Amazing.
Yeah, really interesting. Um, could you tell us more about the Outreachy application process? What was it like
Uh,
for you?
okay, so first of all, I almost did not apply for Outreach. I almost did not apply for Outreachy because I also had that whole mentality that okay, man, this is open source. This is for the cool kids. I'm not a cool kid, right? So I was like, but my friend Uche, my very good friend, She was like, no, Eromo, you can do it. You can just apply. What's the worst that can happen? They tell you no, you go back, you cry, and you're fine. So I decided to take that step. I applied. So what the application process is like is that you have to write like you have to write like 5 essays on why you believe that you should be awarded the internship. Because, like I said, the internship is not about, they're not looking for very skilled people. They're looking to actually support, people that come from, the minorities of the society, like people that you won't hear about on a regular day, right? Like people that are looked down on, that the people don't even like the big leagues don't even look at in the society. So that's their goal, right? So those are the people that they are trying to support. So you can be quote unquote very smart or high and mighty, and Outreachy will accept you. But if you feel like, man, who will hear my voice? No one cares about me. I'll say go for Outreachy. Like they care. Like the people actually sit down and read people's essays to see and to look for those kind of people that they know that they can support. So I know people have heard a lot of things about job applications that they use one AI tracker to just wipe people applications, but I can tell you from experience that Outreach is not like that. Real people actually read your essays, and you can tell your story. And through your story, you might get a chance to, walk into Outreach and begin your own open source journey. So you have to write 5 essays. Once you write the 5 essays, you get into the first phase, and then there are actually 2 stages. The first phase is the essay phase, where you have to, prove that you need, the internship. And the second phase is where you actually have to now do the work. And in doing that work, I would say there a million times I wanted to give up because I did not know Golang. So that's the language that most cloud native applications are written in Golang. December December 2023. That's 2 months before I was learning about DevOps. So I just in that February I started learning Golang. So I was trying to learn OpenTelemetry. I was trying to learn Golang, and I was trying to contribute all in 1 month. So it was a whole lot. It was a whole lot. But I always say shout out to Henrik and Adriana. Their content really ramped me up to speed on how to first understand the project and then make some reasonable contributions. So then I was able to get like 70 hours merged, and then I also spoke
Right
at an
on.
event. And then my mentors were like, "Wow, you're so cool! Come on board." My mentors, by the way, Jurasi and Yuri, are the coolest guys out there. Shout out to them. I love them so much with all my heart, and I'm always grateful to them forever. They will be part of my tech journey. I always mention their names everywhere I go. As the ones that held me like a baby and trained me up to be this man that I am now. So yeah, so that's like a summary of the application process. Yeah.
That's so great. And, I can't underscore enough the importance of programs like Outreachy because
Yeah.
they give opportunities to people who otherwise wouldn't necessarily have gotten the opportunity. And
Yeah.
especially like nowadays, I'm going to get on my little soapbox and talk about the fact that like so many DEI programs are getting cut and
Yeah.
there's so much, I don't know, there's like global hate towards DEI programs. And like, so it's so nice to have a reminder that programs like Outreachy exist. They benefit folks. Um, they elevate folks who are awesome, who we wouldn't necessarily have known about. And so like, I love that. I love that you got so much out of the program. I love that the program exists. I wanted to ask you, so how long was your internship?
Okay, so the internship was for 3 months. But if I want to combine the whole application process, everything together, it was like 6 months, right? But officially, the internship is just for 3 months. So that's how long the internship was. Just 3 months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about your mentors. How do you get paired up with a mentor?
Okay, so when you pick a project, every project has mentors for the project, right? So when I picked the project OpenTelemetry, it was Jurasi and Yuri that were they actually volunteer. So it's not, so they actually volunteer to be mentors for a particular project, right? And so they volunteered to be mentors of the Open Telemetry project at that time. And then that's how they became my mentors.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to
Yeah.
ask. I know that Otel is a very big project. So, what specific areas of Otel? So, what specific areas did you contribute to during your
Okay.
internship?
I'll go before the actual internship. I remember scrolling through the different repos on GitHub, and I was like, oh my god, where do I even start from? And I'll say I tried some things in the Golang SIG, the Go SIG, the Golang instrumentation, but my Go was not very strong. So I think no PR got merged there. But then I now found a lot of solace in the collector contrib SIG, the collector contrib repo, right? And that's why I made some contributions to get into the Outreachy. And in Outreachy, the project that we worked on was building a login bridge in Golang. And by the end of the internship, I was able to build the zero log bridge for Golang. Yeah, so those are the projects that I'm working on. And then currently, I still contribute to the collector contrib. Yeah, so that's a summary of my contributions.
Wow. Well, like it's funny to see how you went from not knowing anything about Go to completing your internship to building something that the community is
Yeah,
making use of. That's
yeah.
huge. So you're one of the few people.
I'm so
Um, uh, yeah. Could you share with us how the African internship helped you secure your first job?
okay. So what happened was I had done a lot of work, and then I was writing articles for Signals. Signals, very cool observability platform also. They support open telemetry natively. So I was writing articles for Signals, and I think my former boss, Otis, the CEO of Sematext, saw some of the articles that I wrote, and had a conversation with me that, oh, hey man, you worked on open telemetry, right? I'm like, yeah, I did. What did you do? I showed him what I did. We got on a call. I did some demos on how auto instrumentation works. He was like, wow, this is so cool. I was like, yeah, it's so cool. Open telemetry is so cool. And he was like, okay, that they want to integrate their platform with open telemetry, and am I up for it? I'm like, okay, sure, I'm up for it. Let's go. And so in Sematext, what I was working on was building an exporter for their platform so that they can receive data from open hotel data into their platform directly using the collector, open telemetry collector. So that was the project I worked on while at Sematext, and it was very stressful, but it was very cool. It was very cool in the end. So that's how I got my first job. The contributions I did, and there's some demos I did about hotel, as I got my first job. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think, it really underscores like two things. First of all, like Outreachy kind of gave you the tools, right,
Yeah.
um, to contribute to open source, contribute to
Yeah.
OpenTelemetry. But then you did another awesome thing, which is putting yourself out there, writing
Yeah.
these blog posts, which is so important. And it's so hard sometimes to like put ourselves out there. And I think we all in tech suffer from imposter syndrome at some point or another, maybe constantly. I feel it comes in
Yeah.
waves for me. And you just have to push past that imposter syndrome and do it anyway. So mega kudos to what you're doing. Now you've made a few references about learning open telemetry, learning Go. What did you use for can you dig a little bit deeper on how you learned open
Okay.
telemetry?
Yeah. So I'll start from my first introduction to open telemetry. I just Google open telemetry, enter, and I saw the documentation. I was like, oh, this looks so cool. And then I tried to read the docs, and my brain wanted to blow up. So so I'm more of a visual learner, right? So I went to YouTube and I typed what is OpenTelemetry, and Henrik, he is the owner or the owner of the channel. Is it observable, right? And I was just watching a lot of his videos at that time, and I would say those videos gave me a lot of context, right? Because how I learn is that I like specific information before general information. So I use his videos a lot to ramp up on my knowledge on hotel. And then our wonderful uh, co-host here, Adriana, her blogs are so awesome. I read a lot of her blogs, at that time just to ramp up because the documentation was very overwhelming for me. So after reading those two things, I then began to go to the docs and actually, narrow down on what I was looking for. So I already knew what I was looking for because documentation sometimes can be very overwhelming because there's so much information packed in the documentation and it's trying to, talk to different classes of people, both beginners, intermediate, and advanced people. So beginners sometimes always feel overwhelmed, right, from those documentation. But I'll say when it came to running the OpenTelemetry demo, the docs did a good job. Yeah, I did pretty good job on how to run the OpenTelemetry demo, which was pretty cool. But yeah, so those were the resources I used. I watched more YouTube videos, but these are the resources that really accelerated my learning journey to make that first contribution to OpenTelemetry. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Personally, I'm more of a reader. Like I prefer to consume text-based resources than watching
Well,
videos. I
that's
still
cool.
prefer watching videos.
That's cool.
I'm with you on that.
So that's
Yeah.
interesting. Interesting to know. Good for you. So of all these resources that you mentioned, the YouTube
Yeah.
videos, author
Yeah.
blogs, which of them would you say was the most um, useful for you to learn about open telemetry?
So you want me to pick one? You want me to pick one?
One or two,
No,
if it's too hard to choose.
it's, it's if you tell me to pick one, I'm very biased. I always go for videos. So if you tell me to pick one, I'll go for Henrik's channel. Hands
I
down.
mean, Henrik produces amazing content, so I can definitely vouch for that.
Yep. Yeah. So I won't pick one. I'll divide them into sections. So for video, I'll say Henrik's channel, is it observable? If you haven't, go and check it out. It's awesome. And then for text, Adriana's blog on Medium. I don't Adriana's blog. I don't know if she's hearing me
Oh,
right now, but Adriana's blog. Yeah. So yeah, you should also check that out, right? Yeah. So those are the two most useful resources.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you said you have a preference for the videos, right?
Yep.
Is there a reason why?
Okay.
Is there something particular about those videos? Yeah.
So how I reason is I'm a very imaginative thinker. Like I can sit down and just go on and just be imagining a lot of things. So I like pictures, visual things, because if I'm just reading a bunch of text of a concept I haven't understood yet, I get bored. Like I will just easily get bored and doze off. So if I'm watching a video, the sound of the person, the tone, the infographics, the pictures, just keeps me excited to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. And before I know it, I've tricked my brain to learning a new concept, right? So yeah, so that's just what works for me. I've observed it over time. Yeah, that's it.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay.
The next question that we were wondering about, you mentioned that you use the OTel docs as a reference, and one of the goals of these sessions that we have, like with OTel Me, is also to provide feedback to the OTel community on areas for improvement. Is there anything like, why is it that you found third-party documentation more useful than the official OTel docs? And what made you go back to them afterwards? And what would you, so this is like a multi-part question, sorry. And what would you do to improve the docs experience if it were up to you as like a new learner?
Okay, so sorry, this is the issue with multiple questions. The first question is
I hope I remember them.
the first question is what made me okay, feedback for the docs? What made me leave the docs? Or
Yeah, why did you choose third-party documentation over the OTel docs for starters?
Okay, so well, because number one, there is no video documentation yet. That's why.
Fair.
First, yeah.
Super fair.
Yeah. But also when I'm reading someone's content, right? Like I'm reading your content or someone else out there. I am not just reading, like I feel human connection. Like I can, like you can say something like, I got stuck at this is what I had to do, and then this got solved. But in the documentation, it's just, man, it's like reading a textbook, it's just there, do this, do that, move on. No, but when you're writing your content, you can say, "Oh, do this. If this does not work, try this. Try this out. If this does not work, try this out." So I'll say that's why I preferred, to go for. Like I said, when I entered the documentation, I go overwhelmed because I was scrolling through a lot of things. I was scrolling through. Then I didn't even understand what instrumentation was, and then documentation has so many links that link you to so many things, and before you know, you're lost in the rabbit hole of the documentation. So I'll be reading something, I'll be like instrumentation, I'll see a link, I'll click the link, I'm going to, a different entire part. And then before you know, I was like, what am I learning? So I got overwhelmed, right? So how would I, if I had that opportunity, how would I, okay, what made me go back to the docs? What made me go back to the docs is what I already built a foundation. So I was not overwhelmed when I saw what is instrumentation or when I saw what is a collector. So imagine someone that is new, that does not know anything about a collector, trying to learn what OpenTelemetry is. And then he's saying, OpenTelemetry, what is OpenTelemetry? You can't really define OpenTelemetry without the four components, instrumentation, collector. And he's like, what? What is a OpenTelemetry operator? Oh my gosh, he's seeing Kubernetes, like, where am I? So I already got that foundational knowledge. So I could now go and head for the docs, right? And because now I already knew what I was looking for in the documentation. So let's say I want to do a particular task, I can just search for that particular part in the docs and focus on just that side. And so what will I do to improve the doc experience? I'll say I would make a video documentation for visual.
We for those who do follow the OTel content, we do have our first video, like instructional video, on the OTel YouTube channel. So and there will be more to come. So that's great feedback.
Yes. So you can also because there are two different kinds of learners. There are visual learners and there are text-based learners. So you're satisfying both at the same time. So that's what I'll say. Yep.
That is a super fair point. And I like that. It's interesting too, like what you were saying, that basically use the OTel docs for like more of a directed search, right? Like first understand stuff from people's experiences, and then, okay, I want to learn about this, I will go into the docs to learn about that. And that's kind of that's really cool.
That's the approach that's worked for me to learn everything. And that's what I'll keep using. By the way, Adriana, I started learning Kubernetes. Just a side note.
Oh, right on. Good luck.
Thank you. I'll read it.
It's a journey. I think you'll find it fun, though. You're a problem solver.
Thank you.
Yeah. Eromosele, could you tell us what your experience was like creating your first PR?
Okay. We're here.
Yeah.
First, so creating my first PR, I'll say it was a whole experience, right? So after watching some videos, reading some documentation, I think I did this for 2 weeks. I was just learning a whole lot. And then I was like, you know what, Eromosele, you need to make your first PR. Like you can't waste any more time. And then so I went to the repos, and I was like, okay, so which repo do I pick? I think that was the first issue I had. So OpenTelemetry has a bunch of repos. So I was like, so which one do I go for? So I think for a while I was just lost in, do I contribute to Node.js? Do I know Node? I don't know Node. Let me go to Collector. Do I know? I'm like, okay. Then so what I now started doing was I started reading other people's PRs. So I would literally go to an issue that is closed, go under the PR, because when an issue is closed, the link to the PR that close the issue will always be there. I'll literally go and be studying their code. So I would, like that's what I did a lot. I don't think I've said share this anywhere before, but that's what I did a lot. I would go and literally be studying people's PR, studying their code, studying how they framed things. Okay, this is how you write this in Go. Because remember, I was still learning Go at this point. So it was like I was like learning so much in 1 month because I was studying people's code. I was doing a course at the same time, right? So, and then after studying people's PRs over a while, I now gained some confidence. I now found an issue that someone had done, something similar. That's the beautiful thing about open source. Sometimes you want to update, a bunch of components at the same time. And I saw a similar issue to one of the PRs I'd studied. And I was like, you know what, I can tackle this. And I asked, hello, my name is this. Can I please be assigned to this issue? I didn't think the person would answer me. And he was like, oh yeah, sure, why not? Go ahead. His username is MX-PSI. I don't know his real name, MX-PSI, sorry. And he was like, why not? Go ahead, sure. And I tried it out. I made mistakes, obviously, because I was new to Go. I didn't understand the whole links check thing. But like I said, Open Telemetry community is so wonderful. They do not look down on you. They do not look down on where you are, as long as you're honest, right? Don't come and prove to be a senior developer when you are actually not. Like, come clean. I told the guy, man, I haven't done this before. Please help my life. I went to his DMs, and he was like, okay, do this, do this, do this. And at the end of, I think after 2 days, it got merged. I was like, yay, my first PR. And then from there, it was just like a full journey, right? It was a full journey, from there. Really, really nice journey. So that was my summarized experience. I don't want to go into the details of me crying and wanting to tear my. Oh yeah, that was just a summarized experience. Yeah.
I have to agree with you that like that first PR getting merged is like the most glorious experience ever. But I will tell you, like every time I have a PR merged, I do like a little happy dance at home. It's like, oh my god, I accomplished something. By the way, I gotta say, like, hats off to you in your approach to working on issues too, like studying the PRs and the code behind the PRs. You have the heart and soul of a software engineer. It's like you were made for this. That's amazing, and I think this is a good lead in also to our next area that we want to talk about, which is I believe you mentioned earlier that you did some work on creating an OTel exporter for the collector. So do talk about that. What was that experience like?
Okay. I have a lot of funny experiences, sorry. So when I got the project with my former company, Sematext, I was like, okay, let's do this, right? How hard can it be? So I went to the documentation, and there was no documentation on how to create an exporter, right? The only documentation was how to create a receiver. And I was trying to understand it, and it wasn't working. Because one thing I now realized later that I didn't know then was that an exporter, I'll say there's no standard way of creating an exporter. Well, there's a template you have to follow, but there's no standardized way because exporters depend on the vendor backend. So in Sematext, we're receiving logs over influx line protocol, and then we're receiving metrics over influx line protocol, and then we're receiving logs over what's that thing called? Elastic bulk index format, right? So I had to build an exporter that would convert OTel data to these two sources. So what I did, like I did for my other PRs, let me just summarize. Like I said, I would avoid all the days of shouting and panicking and running around, and I'll go straight to the point. I started studying other people's exporters. So I studied InfluxDB exporter because that's where our metrics, that's what our metrics export, the metrics side of our exporter would look like. Then I studied Elasticsearch exporter. Like I did a lot of study. I tried to break down a lot of things with the help of my assistant, ChatGPT. Right?
Great assistant.
Yeah, so I tried to break it down. I tried to fit things in our own context. So how do I take this part from here, put it here, remove this part? So it was a whole trial and error. I did a lot of trial and error. um, there was really no content that I could look to, that okay, this is what assisted me in this journey. Oh, sorry, pardon me on that. I remember the OpenTelemetry collector builder. So while learning how to build the exporter, I had to use the OCB, OpenTelemetry collector builder, and that's when I came across Bind Planes content on YouTube. Also, really, they have a full series on the OpenTelemetry collector. Very wonderful series. I enjoyed every bit. So that's why I learned how to use the OpenTelemetry collector builder. So yeah, so that really helped. And the OCB is very fun. It's so cool, man. It's like you can build your own custom collector, with whatever component you want. Like you can, man, it's cool. It's like Play-Doh, right? You can build as you want, play with it as you want, connect things, join things, break things, and it's fine. So I learned how to use the OCB, and then in time, after lots of trial and error, I got my first metric into Sematext, and it was an exciting feeling, right? And then after a while again, got the logs in, and then it was so awesome. Then I built the exporter. Total. So that was the summarized version of the experience of building the exporter.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Believe me, I'm sharing in your excitement right now. I can only imagine. um, so for our next question, could you tell us a bit about learning Go to be able to work on this hotel exporter that you just talked about?
So learning Golang has been a very interesting journey because it has. I did not learn Go the normal way, right? The normal way is just watching a course and just building some, interesting projects, maybe to do app and stuff. I learned Go the hard way because I actually had to, like, I was learning it and I have to apply it directly into real life projects that will go into production, right? So I remember I had a lot of help from the people I worked with at Sematext, Bora, Akshat, really cool guys, part of my team. So they were so I'll make mistakes. They'll be like, no, Eromo, this is not the right way to do this. I know this is the YouTube way, this is the course way, but in production, this would break, this would fail. So I say I learned to go hand-on, contributing to things, right? So it was a very interesting journey. I got a course from Code Cloud, gave me a lot of, like I said, I like contextual things. So I had a full context of what Go looks like. So I could understand Go. If you give me any Golang code, I can know, okay, this is a struct, this is an interface, this is what this does, this is what should do. But then I had a lot of, building things in real life. And I feel like that's really the best way to learn. Although it's very stressful, you feel very dumb sometimes because some things will. I remember sometimes at night I'll literally be up by 2 a.m. my time, and the test keep failing, and I'm like, please just run, please just run. I'll literally be praying. I'm praying over and over and over and over again, and then it's finally run, and I'll be like, yay, let's go, another milestone achieved. So that I'll say that was my whole experience learning Golang and becoming that Golang engineer. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Throughout our conversation, you've talked a lot about the resources that helped you to learn OpenTelemetry, that helped you to learn
Yeah.
Go, and helped you to build the
Yeah.
hotel exporter. Now, could you tell me what plan you had for documenting this exporter that you built?
Wait, when you said
so that other people
Okay,
can
so
use
what do
it.
you mean document it? Do you mean like you want me to document my journey on how I built it? What or you want me to document the exporter itself? Like, can you clarify?
Documentation for,
Sorry, I didn't get you for, I lost you for like 2 seconds. Sorry.
yeah. I said documentation for the exporter itself, for those who will be using it. Yeah.
Okay, so I think when you're contributing an exporter, there's actually a template of documentation that you actually have to just do. But I'll answer your question from the standpoint because I think Adriana and I spoke about this I think last time, and so even if I document, and she actually put an idea that I should write an article on how it is not really possible to show you how to build an exporter. Because actually sat down after building exporter. I was like, okay, how can I help the community with this? And I'm like, even if I show you how I did it, it's not going to be useful to you because your context might be different, right? It might be different. So what I would say is maybe the article I can write, or no, maybe the documentation will be, don't give up, try again. Even when it fails, keep trying. It's gonna work. And then another thing I'll say is study other code, study other people's code. Like I'll say that's one thing that's helping my own coding journey and has really accelerated my speed. Is that I always studied people's code and understood the patterns in the code. So from understanding those patterns, I can now create my own. Find how to remove parts and then join to what I'm looking for. So yeah.
So it's more of a process rather, because I guess from the sounds of it, like I think the other two components, receivers and processors, I think there is like some documentation
Yeah.
around creating those because it's more formulaic, right?
Yeah.
Whereas exporters are not. But then I guess the thing that's in common is like, what's the thought process that you need for creating it, but not this is the exporter template.
Yeah, it's the step by step. Nah, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I think that would be such a great blog post to write. Because I think, again, it all goes back to what you were saying too about like, some of these third party sources are about personal experiences and having that human touch, human connection. And I think that would be so beneficial. It would also be interesting, I'm just giving an idea, to put in the docs something along the lines of like, why is it that we don't have a template for creating OTel exporters? Because that was like, I remember at some point I was looking into that as well, and I'm like, I don't get it. Why why is there no template for this?
Yeah, actually, yeah. There's no official template. I think it's when you start and then you
Mhm.
speak to the maintainers. They now tell you, oh no, this should be here. This shouldn't be here. I'm like, okay, let's change things up, right? So I think there should be an official like, okay, this is the maybe we can't help you to build the full thing, but these are the things you need. You need a config file. You need this file. You need a factory.go file. Things around that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. And then the other thing that you mentioned that I want to dig into is the OTel Collector builder,
Okay.
um, and specifically, like, what was your what was your experience around that? Because I've played around with the builder, you've played around with the builder. Was it as easy as you thought it would be? And if not, what would you say is some feedback that you would like to give on what can be done to make it easier?
Okay. So in my journey, and I'm going to be very, very honest here, right? In my journey with learning to try to get the understand the exporter, I didn't really get any good of the information from the documentation. So I'll say for a while, I just did not look at the docs anymore. I just went to YouTube and was doing the research. So that's where I found Plane, right? And then they did a whole video on how to build your own custom collector, like a 46 minutes video. And that basically showed me, okay, yeah, so this works, this can do this. And then I think also the README files. So I think there's even some of the OpenTelemetry collector builder. It's more documented in the README file than well at that time than the documentation itself. So I think I
Mm.
got more value from the from the README file, from the README files at that time, than the actual documentation. I don't know if it has been updated yet. I'll probably check, but yeah. So that
I
was,
did just get a PR merged in the OTel docs about like, because when I was doing it, I'm like, okay, I built this distro. How the hell do I containerize it? And there was no documentation around that, and I had to ask. And then I wrote a blog post about it, but I'm like, it should be in the docs too. So I just had that PR merged, I think today or yesterday. So
hey, that's cool. I'll go check it out.
woo!
I'll go check it out. That's so cool. Yeah, so that was my experience with the OCD telemetry collector.
Awesome.
All right. I think we have just one more question. Could you tell us a bit about the hotel community? Um, I
The
would
OpenTelemetry
specifically like to
community.
know what's your
Okay.
yeah. I would like to know your first impression of the community, how you're able to collaborate with the community
Yeah,
from the time you contributed to
yeah,
as an Outreachy intern and beyond that, beyond the intern.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So the OpenTelemetry community. I love you all so much. But so my first experience with them was I introduced myself. Hello guys, I am Eromosele. So I used to be introverted some sort of way, but the people don't really believe because I'm very outspoken. But I used to be introverted, right? So I was kind of shy because I was like, okay, I'm a newbie. I don't really know much about stuff. I don't know anything about open source who listened to me, right? And I was like, hello, my name is Eromosele. I'm from Nigeria. Nice to meet you all. And people said hi back, right? People waved back. Oh, Eromosele, nice to meet you. Welcome to the OpenTelemetry community. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I'll say when I stumbled into a lot of like back to my mentors, right? Yuri. So Jorasi was Yuri was my major mentor for the Outreachy internship. So we had a lot of calls, right? And in those calls, he just keep on encouraging me that I know this is tough, but don't worry, you're gonna get it. Just keep pushing, keep trying. I Eromosel, I believe in you, So he's come Eromosel. Yeah, Eromosel, I believe in you. I know you can do this. So he was always just encouraging me. And then even not just my mentors, it was like a collective effort. So like I said, I've said this before, I'll go to some people's DMs and I'll be crying that please help me. I don't understand this issue. How do I solve it? You've already assigned it to me. I tried this, it did not work. And they'll be like, okay, you know what, try this, make this change. And then I'll keep disturbing them and they'll keep replying. And I remember when I wrote my first blog post on OpenTelemetry, and I had already like read some bunch of Adriana's blog posts. And I was like, I'm gonna send a DM to Adriana because I like to hear her thoughts on my blog post. And I was like, hello Adriana. Hi, I'm Eromosele, Washington. Please can you review my blog post for me? And she replied and she went and reviewed my blog post. And I was like, wow, she doesn't know me from anywhere. We are not in the same continent or from different tribes, and she's actually willing to, assist, right? So I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I would say the open source community, they are very loving. I can't really vouch for a lot of open source communities, right? But I can vouch for the open telemetry community that they are really cool and it's a very nice community to join. By the way, I'm now a member of the open telemetry community.
Yay!
Yay! So you can also text me. I'm very cool. If you have questions about telemetry, you can text me. I'm cool. Like they are also cool, right? So the community is loving, nice, really caring, and I love it all. Then when I got to KubeCon and I met everyone in person, it was like way cooler. I met Adriana in person. I met Herrick. I met Trask and some other really awesome people. It was really nice. So yeah, really nice community to join and be part of.
Yeah, I'm going to completely agree with everything you just said because
Yeah.
I just recently joined the community too, and everyone has been great. What you said about Adriana, plus one to that. She's very cool,
Yep.
and it's been nice, yeah, getting to interact with her. One more question before we go. Um, have you made any recent? I believe as an hotel community member now, you have continued to contribute to the hotel community. So have you made any recent contributions to the hotel community that you like to talk about?
Yeah. Okay. So What I have been doing majorly right now is in the Nigerian space. I think when I came back from KubeCon, I think when I was learning the whole open telemetry thing, I realized that open telemetry was not a topic that was spoken about a lot in my country, locally, in Africa, because Kubernetes is very popular here. Everyone knows Kubernetes, right? So open telemetry is not really heard a lot. So I started advocating a lot about. I think that's how I even slided into my developer advocate role. So currently, I'm a developer advocate. I'm not a full software engineer anymore. So I started, attending conferences, talking about open telemetry, showing people how to get started with open telemetry, how to get into open source. That those because I experienced, I'll say I experienced the dramas, the struggles. So I understand when people come to me and tell me, I'm so confused about open source. How do I start? So I understand, yeah, and I can also give them practical steps I took to get started. So I'll say I've been doing more of that, and then I'm actually still the exporter has not. It has been built fully, but I'm still pushing it into because open source takes time, and you can't just throw things inside. There's a whole process. So the exporter is still being pushed into the OpenTelemetry collector contrib. So I'll say that is in the aside related to code. That those are the contributions that I've been making. But then I've been doing more of advocacy, about OpenTelemetry, in my community. Yeah.
That's amazing, and I think that makes a really good point as well, because contributing to OpenTelemetry isn't just about the PRs that you're making. It's also about
Yeah.
the advocacy, the bringing that
Yeah.
awareness. So I think
Yeah.
that's great, and I think this wraps up the main Q&A, and we do have a few minutes left. So if anyone from the audience has any questions that they would like to ask at this point, we are happy to take your questions. I feel like we need some music. Eromosele, this is where you take out the
Yep.
guitar.
I should plan for this. I should plan for this.
Dang it.
You want music?
With the music.
Was that you? Or was that
I think that
Henry?
was Henrik, our amazing producer. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions. So, what I will say is, I guess we'll wrap up. But before we go, a few quick announcements, promotions. First of all, for anyone who is planning on attending Open Source Summit in Denver, Colorado, there's also going to be, as a co-located event, there's an Open Observability Con and OTel Community Day that is going on. The CFPs for OTel Community Day are closed, but Open Observability Con CFPs are still open. And that's going to be at the end of June. So feel free to submit CFPs to attend if you're in the area, if you're planning on attending. Open Source Summit also is like lots of fun. It's like KubeCon Light. It's all the awesome people who attend without the flash. So it's tons of fun. The other thing, for anyone who is interested, as I mentioned, I'm one of the maintainers of the OTel End User SIG. Victoria is a newly joined member of the OTel End User SIG. So if you're interested in joining us, seeing what we're up to, Henrik just flashed a link for our GitHub repo. We do a bunch of things like these types of events. We have Otel Me, we have OTel in Practice, where if anyone who's watching is interested, if you have like a topic, an observability OTel topic that you'd like to present on, maybe you're testing out a topic for a conference, for a talk, want to flesh it out, use us. Just DM us on the OTel End User SIG Slack, and just let us know if you're interested in doing a presentation for OTel in Practice. And we also join forces with the various OTel SIGs to run surveys. So stay tuned. There will be more surveys heading your way. The surveys are a great way for us to get feedback from our user community on ways to improve the SIGs. So that information is super important, super valuable to the community. So thank you to the folks who have responded to the surveys. Thank you to the folks who have engaged in the OTel end user SIG. Also, for those who aren't able to attend, and for those who were able to attend, tell your friends that this video will be posted on our OTel YouTube channel. It's OTel-official on YouTube. You can catch all of our previous OTel in practice and OTel Me sessions, and also we do have our first how-to OTel video on the OTel YouTube channel. So for those who are visual learners, this is your opportunity to check that out. Thank you so much, Eromosele, for joining, and for Victoria for co-hosting with me today. This has been lots of fun. Always enjoy having these conversations. And
Thanks,
we will see everyone at the next event.
Sure. Thanks, Adriana.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fab. Thanks, Victoria.
It was nice meeting you too.